Welcome to the world united. Welcome to the world united.
Aloha! What I have learned that I want to share with you today is that the quality of the agreements we make, whether conscious or unconscious, are directly proportional to the quality of our lives, and especially our relationships, including our relationship with ourselves. Our success in business, as in most aspects of life, is dependent upon our relationships because all life is sacred. All relationships are sacred. And when we know and apply this in business, we might call it practical spirituality. In 1985, shortly after my honeymoon, and a few years after my husband Glenn and I had been doing what some would call conscious business consulting, we invited a few of our clients and some of our fellow business owners over to our home to explore this question. How can we support one another in living our highest values in all aspects of our lives, and especially at work, where we spent most of our time? At that very first gathering of what became known as Geneva Group, we began to develop a set of agreements that would help to guide us in doing this. That group decided to meet again the next month, and the next, and the next, for a full day for the next 20 years. During that time, as we evolved, the agreements evolved. The revolutionary agreements are my version of the essence of those Geneva Group agreements. They self-organized into three what I call pillars of a good life, and you can see them behind me on this banner. They are truth, acceptance, and gratitude, where truth is being the truth of who you are, your authentic self. Acceptance is accepting others for who they are. And, well, gratitude is feeling and expressing our appreciation for every precious moment of our sacred life on this beautiful planet. So, what are these agreements that guided me and others to enormous success in business and at home and in the world? In the pillar of truth, they are: I agree to live my mission, to speak my truth with compassion, to look within when I react, and to keep doing what works and change what doesn't. I am so excited to tell you about some of the results that people have shared with me. And while the results span all aspects of life, I'll focus today on those that have to do with our work. So let's start with the director of systems and operations of a Fortune 50 company who was stressed out by his underperforming team and didn't know how much longer he would be able to stay in his job. A consultant gave him a copy of the Revolutionary Agreements book. Inspired, he engaged his team in creating their own set of agreements. And later that year, he wrote this: We have been functioning as a cohesive team with our new agreements for 7 months now. And to say that this core organization has turned itself around would be an understatement. I look back and remember upper management laughing at my 1-year goal. Back then, they did not know about the power of using the agreements. I can say that I am in love again with my career and assert that the agreements are the best tools for stress reduction I have ever found. Well, I love that word love. The second agreement is I agreed to speak my truth with compassion. It was while practicing this agreement that I discovered why some people lie, even when honesty is one of their highest values. Why? Because we all have competing values, and sometimes job security, for example, takes precedence over honesty. Here's a frightening example of that. In 2015, the airline industry reported that co-pilots didn't tell their pilots the truth, even when a fatal accident could be the result. these co-pilots were concerned that they might be considered insubordinate. As spiritual leaders, how can we help somebody to feel safe and secure in their connection to all life in such a way that serving life itself becomes our highest value? Well, here's how Mark Porteous does it. Mark is a friend, and he helps mission-driven entrepreneurs to connect with their soul tribe. That includes their partners and their customers. Years ago, he told me that the revolutionary agreements give him a structure for being the change he wishes to be or he wishes to see in the world. Yes, thank you, Mahatma Gandhi. Rather than keeping this to himself, Mark claimed the agreements as the constitution for his business, and he consciously offers them to his many partners and clients. This is his way of supporting people to live their highest values. When Reverend Marty McMain was senior minister of a huge church in Boulder, Colorado, she took the agreements first to her women's spirituality group for 12 weeks, then to an off-site board retreat where the board adopted those they most resonated with. And then she gave one sermon on each of the 12 agreements. As leaders of organizations, we can influence many who influence many by sharing the tools that help us to be our best selves and to serve life. Marty went on to spread the word even further through her beautiful book, Living Grace: Spiritual Growth in the Everyday World. The final agreement in the Pillar on Truth is, I agree to keep doing what works and change what doesn't. During the time I was building a hugely successful business, one of my business partners said to me one day, "Isn't our work so easy, fun, and rewarding?" Well, fun, yes, because I got to work with her and we worked with other friends. Rewarding? Definitely. We were literally saving people's lives and making a lot of money doing it. But easy? No. And I told her that. I said, I think it's hard. She said, really? You think it's hard? I feel like it's easy. So later that day, I thought about this. We do the same work, she and I. How could she think it was easy and I think it was hard? It occurred to me that my whole life, no matter what my work was, and no matter how much I loved it, I thought it was hard. I think that I was proud of being a hard worker. That's how I grew up, that work would be hard. So in that moment, I decided it was time for me to experience work and life as easy. I knew a little about how we create neural pathways in our brains by reinforcing the same thoughts over and over, creating a kind of a rut in our brain. And I realized I was in a rut. So I knew that if I didn't keep focusing on that same thought about how hard work was, that eventually it would weaken that neural pathway and maybe even break it apart someday. So what would I rather believe? That work was easy. The next day, I decided to begin creating a new neural pathway. I began to reinforce everything that I thought was easy. So first thing in the morning, I opened the sliding glass door to my lanai and it went whoosh. And I said out loud, that was easy. And then I went into the kitchen and made some breakfast and cracked an egg on the frying pan and oh, that was easy. All day long and all week long, I kept reinforcing the thought that that was easy. It was like a miracle how everything started seeming easier to me. I wrote a blog about it, and one of my readers sent me this button.
That was easy.
Now I had another voice of reinforcement. So after life became easy for me, occasionally something hard slipped in, and then I could reflect on it and think about whether it was just an old habit showing up, or was it that really I wasn't supposed to be doing that, perhaps. So it's a good place to be. the easy place. Okay, in the pillar of acceptance now, moving on, the agreements are, I agree to listen with my heart, to respect our differences, to resolve conflicts directly, and to honor our choices. I won't have time today to share with you a story about each of these agreements, but if you'd like, you can read the results that people have shared with me at revolutionaryagreements.com or in the second edition of my book, Revolutionary Agreements. And if you'd like your own poster of these agreements without a body in front of what you might want to read, you can get that as well at freeposter.com. No, it's freeposternow.com. Okay. So Gail lives in a neighborhood of 24 homes. They share common food gardens, hiking trails, and community buildings. They have a lot of decisions to make together. Over the past 20 years, every time they've started one of their many business meetings, they begin by reading their agreements aloud. As I read what Gail shared with me, think about meetings that you've been in where important issues are discussed by people who think differently from you. She said, since working with the agreements, I notice I have fewer reactions to differing opinions, and I am able to more quickly stop myself before laying blame on another. The agreements remind me to look within for the source of my issue. Once I discover that source, my reaction usually dissipates. Then I can relax and respect our differences. Practicing these agreements virtually eliminates negative gossip in our community, and the benefits of more compassionate communication and deeper relationships are deeply gratifying. It's good. So finally, in the pillar of gratitude, I agree to give and receive thanks. See the best in myself and others. Look for blessings in disguise and lighten up. I'll share a short story by Lori, a corporate executive coach. She said, one of my business clients was concerned about losing productivity at work. At closer look, we discovered that the root of his problem was at home. His insistence that his wife support him by acting in ways he deemed right was draining his energy. I suggested he use the agreement to see the best in myself and others and requested, why don't you talk with your wife about only what she is doing right for the next week? He did so, and the result was nothing less than transformative. Both his relationship with his wife and his productivity at work experienced a dramatic turnaround. First and foremost, these agreements are agreements with ourselves. Practicing these agreements ultimately leads to one agreement. I agree to be myself with a capital S to signify that we are a divine gift from our Creator, and the way we live our lives is a gift to all creation. Each of us is a cell in the body of humanity, forming the larger self. May these agreements serve you on your journey as we awaken to our unconditional, loving unity consciousness. Namaste.